is Adele, and with me is my friend, one of my closest friends, Jharna Kannan. She is a yoga practitioner yoga teacher and a yoga practitioner who's living in Hyderabad, and she's joining me for this conversation today. And we've chosen for the first part of our series a topic which is kind of taken the pop psychology culture by storm, the term gaslighting. We've heard of it so much, and yet many of us have quite a limited understanding of the term, and I've heard many people use the term out of context. And also use it as an excuse to play the victim. So we're going to debunk a lot of myths in this conversation with Jharna. And I hope at the end of the conversation, we'll not only have a kind of a deeper understanding of the term gaslighting, but we'll also come out with a little bit of tools on how to gaslight proof our life. So, hey, Jharna.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so I'm just going to give a quick introduction on what gaslighting is, yes? Now, gaslighting is a term that caught on the imagination of the psychology community after a 1940s film of the same name. So there is this man who kills somebody and hides the body in a part of the house where when he goes to search for the treasure that was owned by the person he killed, when he needs to use light in that particular part of the house to search for the jewelry, the rest of the house gets dimmed. So his wife keeps getting scared about that and keeps telling him, do you notice that the house is getting dim? And he's like, no, what are you talking about? Of course not. So, and he makes her question her judgment. Is she seeing that which she is seeing? Is she actually sensing what is right? So he makes her question her own judgments. So that's where pretty much the term gaslighting comes from. And now, of course, everybody, I heard a 12-year-old use the term gaslighting, and I thought it's gone too far now. So, which is why I kind of chose the topic to discuss. So, Jharna, if you can start off the discussion with your experience in gaslighting, if you've had any.
I think I realized that the term gaslight for me, I honestly didn't know what it was until less than 2 years back. I just figured gaslight is lighting the gas when you cook food. I swear.
Right.
And the thing is, I think it's happened to me all my life. And in turn, I've also done that to people because it's been happening with me. So you think it's very normal. And I think it was only less than 2 years back when you saw it happen to me in front of you. You told me this is what gaslight is. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know. I just didn't know. And it's something that really took me by surprise because it happened to me from someone who's very close to me. And then I started noticing that pattern, and then I started realizing it's been happening all my life. So once you get an idea of what is going on, you start going backward to try and remember incidents where that could have happened, which could have been gaslighting. And then I started to understand, okay, this is what gaslight is, and it finally changed my definition of gaslight. And I mean, of course, I have gaslit people without knowing I'm doing that. And I think once I understood what the term was, if I've seen that happen from my side to someone else, I was a little aware of it that I was doing it to someone else. And I think the reason why I did that to someone else when I was aware that I was gaslighting this person was because I wanted to feel better about myself. And it really had nothing to do with the other person. And there have been times when I've told people that, it's not okay for you to feel what you're feeling because it's just morally wrong. And who am I to judge someone else's morals, right? So, and the thing is, I did that to someone who was close to me as well. And I did that to this person in front of someone else. And I later apologized to this person for doing it to them in front of someone else, but not for the actual gaslighting itself. And since then, I feel like I've come, I don't know if I've come a long way, but I have come some way from there where I check what I'm about to tell someone, because when you are going through something and your opinions or your feelings have been validated, it feels good. You feel like you've actually been seen. And now, when I see somebody else going through something, and if I'm in a place where I'm getting triggered, I try not to act on that trigger by trying to invalidate their feelings. I just don't act on it at all. And I tell them, okay, you know what, you're going through something, it's valid, even if it feels very uncomfortable inside, then I have to go back and do the work on why it is triggering me. So I feel like now I'm in a slightly better position to check myself before I speak to someone else about what they're going through. So, of course, this is again a work in progress. It's something that we have to keep working on, because sometimes it happens to you. Sorry, it happens to you and then you don't realize it, and then you're doing it to someone else because it's coming from a place of scarcity or not feeling good enough about yourself. And I think it's important to focus on getting to know yourself better, which will reduce the hurt that you start, pushing towards others. And
Yes.
because of that, it's extremely important to understand why gaslighting happens, because it happens mostly in the closest of relationships,
Yes.
with parents, with friends, with really close family, and it's just considered the norm because that's how we've all grown up. That's how everybody interacts with everybody. So think, oh, you know what? Yeah, okay. I don't feel um, and the thing is, you don't even want to address these issues unless you are really willing to be okay with emotions that don't feel comfortable, which most of us are not. We're trying to run in the opposite direction, right?
Very
And I think it's extremely important because even though it seems a bit it can be a daunting practice of getting to know yourself or getting to know someone else and building that intimacy with somebody else. I think it's extremely important because otherwise you're just in a relationship with the image of what you want someone else to be. It's not actually looking at someone and telling them, you are like this, I'm like this. There may be certain things that we do not like about each other. How are we going to work on this so we can work together and still be our own person? So
I
I this
the
leaves it as
like the stream of consciousness that you have been speaking in, it started with a culture. You were born into literally a culture of gaslighting, as I was as well. So for me, it comes in the, I mean, I think it's common for the both of us and for many people who may be watching as well. If you're told by your parents, we're doing this for your own good, and every cell in your body is cringing and trying to run in the opposite direction. So you think that, oh, parents, of course they're doing this for my own good. And whilst that is okay before compos mentis, before the age of your own personal reasoning developing, where, I mean, of course you have to trust your parents to make decisions that are valid for us. But after a little while, parents kind of get very complacent and very comfortable by in the role of telling us what to do. And I'm your parent. This is how it's done. And so, and we get complacent complacent, in a habit of sacrificing our own feelings, biting our teeth down and saying, okay, I'm just going to follow blindly what my parents say. So this is the culture, and this is the hot pot from which people like us, we come out and we not only replicate that which was done to us by our parents to other people, we also, because we think our feelings are meant to be invalidated, our feelings are meant to be suppressed, ignored. It's hardly the thing. What needs to happen has to happen. And if you are the casualty in the happening of it, well, you are the casualty. That's it. And we replicate it. We bring it upon other people. And the worst thing after that is that we are also a perfect match for gaslighters in our lives. So we land with people. Now, this is what I've learned over the last few years of being aware of being, number one, gaslit perpetually all through my life as a child, and becoming a gaslighter myself as an adult, where I would very conveniently, and it was just lies. I did what I did because I wanted to do that which I did. But when somebody gets hurt, I used to have the audacity to say, you don't have the right to get hurt because I did the right thing. And I would find manipulative words, and I would have a nice tone of speech where I would speak in a kind way. And I would also bring in Jesus. Well, this is what God told me to do this, or something along those lines, where who are you going to argue with? My good, polite tone? I'm speaking in a polite tone of voice, so therefore this is not an argument. So even though my victim is feeling angry with me, because I'm manipulating them through my tone, which is gentle and soft and polite, they can't rise up because then they'd become assholes. So on top of being wounded, because I wounded them, I am now sitting and talking to them in a condescending way, as though speaking to a child, and letting them know that they have no business being hurt. They should, in fact, be thanking me for being hurt by me. And after that, I will even bring about insane arguments like religion and God. Because who are you going to talk against? God. And the person who brings God first into the conversation owns God in the conversation, right? Because I brought him in. So these were the ways in which I was manipulating people through gaslighting. Of course, at that time, all through my life, I didn't know I was gaslighting. And the quality of relationships, the quality of friendships I had sucked. Well, they just sucked. And I sucked. And I just had a lot of clenched feeling within me. And I was just, gaslighting is manipulation, right? How do you feel? What did it make you feel like, Jharna, when you were gaslighting people, whether you knew you were gaslighting or not?
It was actually a very powerless, very cringy, ugly sort of feeling. Like, I know I'm doing this to them, and in the moment you don't know that is what it's called, right? You just know at some level that you're manipulating them, or you don't know and it's just happening on autopilot. So when I talk like that to people, I feel so like I just didn't like being that person, but I couldn't help myself because I had to make myself look good in my own eyes. The other person was just incidental or collateral damage. It really didn't have anything to do with them. And that makes me realize that I've probably done it to countless people. And it's just something that starts snowballing. You do it to one person or how many other person, and then they keep doing it to other people. And then somehow I feel like it'll find a way to come back to you, right? Because what you give is what you get. How you feel is what you will make others feel. So it's not a very nice feeling. It's not. Now if I feel like I want to gaslight somebody, it's because I know there's some issue I haven't dealt with. So I would rather work on that than act on that feeling of personally, I feel it comes from feeling a lot of shame and not feeling worthy about yourself. So you project it onto others through gaslight and other behaviors. So it's not nice. It's just not nice. It's not nice when it's done to you. It's not nice when you're doing it to someone else either. Either it would make you feel powerless, like I let the other person have control over how I'm feeling, even though that's not the case. So, yeah.
That you mentioned before. When you were being gaslit, it took another person, a third person from outside to have their perspective and then put the term to it and saying, Jharna, you're being gaslit, right? So, and quite recently, like as in just a few days ago, I was monumentally gaslit by a childhood friend. And because it's my childhood friend, and I didn't know that, and bringing you and our friend Abhishek into the conversation, when Abhi used the word gaslit and said, Adele, you're being gaslit by this person, it just felt like this knowledge is very far away. I have no reason to doubt Abhi's diagnosis of the situation. And then slowly things started to fall into place. And it was such a relief to know that, there is nothing wrong with all this negative feelings that I'm feeling towards this situation that this person has caused. I am not in the wrong. I am made to feel guilty and responsible for a situation that I didn't cause even. So number two, the take home fact is gaslighters create gaslighters, and gaslighting can turn into a sort of like a hereditary curse. The second thing is we'll need, if you are being gaslit in a situation, hopefully you have friends who know what gaslighting is and will tell you you're being gaslit, because whilst you're in the midst of it, it's very difficult to see the wood for the trees. So hopefully you have that. And the third one is gaslighting it's not just happening with, in interpersonal relationships as well. It can happen historically, like for instance, a lot of genocides that have happened in this world that the world refuses to acknowledge as genocide. And then we have major catastrophes, man-made catastrophes that have happened that a lot of people say, we didn't cause that, including the famines, the great famines of India. So we have historically, we have a kind of a characteristic trait. Humans as such have the nurse with the blanket, I call this in my head. We want, like the patient is super sick and they're almost dying, but the nurse wants to give them a good solid bed wash and put the blanket up to their neck, and the patient looks like everybody else. The patient is dying though. So we constantly have to let the nurses know if a patient is sick, we want their blanket to be down here so that we see the probes and everything. So, but the nurses have this tendency to blanket everything. So there is a human, and if we watch the movie, Leonardo DiCaprio's old movie called The Beach, if you watched it, there is this one young man who's dying, right? And this entire commune of people just denigrate him, just push him away to the outskirts of that camp and let him just die. So human beings have a tendency to put blinders on and pretend bad things isn't happening, in which case we are good solid ground. We are like fertile ground for gaslighting to happen as well. Don't you think, Jharna?
I think so. I do. Because nobody wants to see the unpleasant part of it. I mean, we're wired as human beings to go towards pleasure, right? And
Yes.
unless you decide I am going to sit with my demons and I'm going to work on it no matter what comes out of it, it's very, very hard to um, say okay and look at a pleasant, unpleasant situation and say, okay, I will deal with this. Most people are wired to do that. Even when you are doing the work on whatever issues you have, there will be topics that will come up and you will have immense resistance to working on it because it is going to change your entire belief system.
Yes.
You've grown up with all your life. And I think for this reason, doing the work of Byron Katie is a great idea. But sometimes we may have resistance to doing the work itself because it will start questioning you and then you start unraveling. So we're just wired to move towards pleasure, and it takes a little bit of I guess I think in my case it was mostly like I can't deal with this anymore. I just have to, I have to find some solution to feeling this way all the time. But yes, gaslighting is something that can happen so easily. And there may be times, like you mentioned with your childhood friend, because that friendship was so close and you've known this person for so long, it it's difficult to see it when it happens to you from that close quarters. You need someone from the outside to tell you that it's happening. And I think this happened to me a while ago as well. And until you told me that, okay, this person can't be in your life, that's when I realized I'm like, okay. So this person has to go. So hopefully
Yes.
will have friends that they can talk to. If they can't figure that out, maybe talk to a therapist to help them, see these situations. So I think that would be a good idea. Yeah.
And the most talked about place where gaslighting happens is in a romantic relationship. And let's not always play the victim because that's not fair. In a romantic relationship, we constantly, especially in Tamil movies, we see the heroes beating the heroines and then say stuff like, "Ye enna ipdi panna vecha?" Like, why did you make me do this? Nobody made your fucking ass do any shit, you know? They say, you made me beat your ass, like I was asking for it. And then we have people who hurt you. And then when you're hurt, it makes them feel assholey. So they'll say, I didn't mean to do it. Doesn't matter what you meant. What you meant and what you feel is between your heart and your skin. Your feelings is your business. But once it's an action, and when it's an action, words are actions too, right? If your words have a certain effect on another person, you do not have the right to tell that person they're not supposed to feel the way that your words or your actions have caused them to feel. Now, I'm very, it's very difficult for us, especially if it's a married couple with children. It's very difficult if they've developed a culture. Sorry, it's my dog. A culture of gaslighting is what keeps them together, where the woman or the man have to consistently swallow their feelings in order for a relationship to be there. Because I don't know, whatever the reason is, it could be children, could be the horrors of divorce, or the fear of being alone and lonely. So there could be numerous number of reasons why people consistently stay in a gaslighting, abusive relationship. And when that happens, you need to take stock of your life. Sometimes maybe you just need to find, like if it is going to constantly keep hitting you in that place, you're going to have to find a way to make that a soft place for that beating to land. But if you think gaslighting is a scenario where it's intolerable, you have to leave the relationship. Because personally, I don't see a gaslighter changing. Do you?
Um, unless they have developed some amount of awareness for it. I mean, you and I, we've been talking, and we've talked about how we gaslit other people, right? So now we're trying to find
See,
ways.
this is difference. Like, for instance, I saw this David Letterman's show on Netflix where Jay-Z was talking to David Letterman, and he was talking about how he did something, and his daughter Blue Ivy, who was around 5 or 6 at the time, she turned around and told her dad, "Dad, what you did, you hurt my feelings." And Jay-Z said, I am this rough guy from a really bad part of town who worked very hard and who is in the position that I am. And I have a daughter who is so emotionally intelligent who says, "Dad, you did that and it hurt me." And it got me to thinking about a lot of things. Number one, that Jay-Z and Beyonce are clearly on a path of self-discovery. And gaslighting was just one of the things that they discovered within themselves that needed correcting. Do you understand what I'm saying? But if, let's say, I'm in a relationship with somebody and I'm leading with gaslighting and saying that you are gaslighting me and that requires change from you, I'm not sure that is ever going to make anybody a better person. I think if you are already on the path of self-improvement and becoming a better person, gaslighting is just one of those little things that you will choose, not little, but will choose to make right within yourself and for the world, don't you think?
I suppose now that you're mentioning it, I actually had a conversation with someone very close to me, and this person said something to me, and I said, you know what? This is what you've been doing, and you haven't been treating me well, and you've hurt me so many times, and especially for the last few months, you've been really awful. And I just said it with all, like I just couldn't hold it in anymore. And this person said, I haven't been doing any of those things. I haven't changed at all. You have changed very much. And then it was like this bulb went on in my head. I'm like, okay. So I have changed and I'm able to see this for the first time. But this is the pattern this person has employed all my life. Now I'm like, okay, I get it. So I suppose it supports that theory. Yeah.
Yes. So now let's wrap it up with how can we gaslight proof our life, right? And I think it's very, very important because the reason we need to gaslight proof our life is because if we don't, our entire life will be about surviving a hurt another human being is causing us. And that's where your life ends. This is hurting me, but I have to pretend I'm not hurt. So I have to hold this person's hand. If he happens to be my romantic partner, I have to hold his hand and smile into his face and make him feel like as though
Everything's
and you are the best partner in the world while you're dying a little bit inside within yourself. Or you do it because you have children, or you do it because your family would be devastated if you were to divorce, right? So there are lots of reasons, and once we start having these reasons why not to face gaslighting head on, any reason will do. But if you're going to take gaslighting and if you're going to say, I'm going to gaslight proof my life, the number one thing we need to know is every one of our feelings is valid.
yeah.
And valid it's important, and it has to be upheld, and it has to be treated with great degree of respect. So how we can do that is through meditation, through quiet times, through having a personal, an allocated time every single day, be it 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, to just sit with ourselves. There's so many apps, there's so many tutorials on YouTube that teach us how to do mindfulness meditation, where we get used to the sensations and feelings in our bodies and give it a legitimate place in our life. So the longer we do that, it becomes okay for us to feel the way we do and to be who we are. And slowly, anybody who says, you're not supposed to feel that because I'm going to do whatever it is that I'm going to do because it doesn't hurt me to do it. But if you get hurt, that's your business and you're not supposed to feel it. But if you want to be miserable, go ahead and feel that. But this is how it's going to be. Once we do a lot of mindfulness meditation, number one, it gives us a legitimacy for our feelings, and it will also give us a way out magically somehow. What do you think, Jharna?
I think so too. You kind of just summarized it, and I won't steal your answer.
Yes.
um, what you said is absolutely right. And the thing is, because we're so bound by connections and wanting connections in our life, no matter the cost to our personal happiness, it
Yes.
takes a lot of courage to decide to do this for yourself.
And I
When
would also recommend therapy, don't you think? Like, I mean, if doing it on your own be daunting for someone,
yeah,
therapy, talking
mhm,
to a person who is trained to see pathology is another great tool. Having friends who don't have a stake, who are not going to gain anything by your being miserable, and who want to see you happy,
yeah,
that is another amazing way in which to, um, but above all, I also feel like be independent,
mhm,
have your own stream of revenue, have your own stream of, I don't know, if you have your own little world that you can retreat into, where you are the master of that world and you can reflect on your life with other people in that world. Have your own friends, have your own revenue, your own money, have your own hobbies, where, and this is important to be your own autonomous person, because once you blend with another human being, there is going to be a lot of problems, because it's usually one person has to be the flexible one, bending over backwards, and the person who gets used to you being flexible for them invariably turns out to be the asshole. It's just they may not be real assholes. It's just that's what power does to people, right? So if you are going to bend over backwards to accommodate another human being in your life, be prepared for them to gaslight you consistently. So I would recommend therapy, good friends, your own mindfulness meditation, and of course, learning to be autonomous, standing on your own 2 feet, whether you're in a relationship or not, having your own hobbies, having things that make you happy. Can you add to this? Can you think of anything else, Jarna?
going to say some of the things. I feel like you stole my answer
I always steal your answer. Yes. Right.
now. When you started your journey of self-discovery, I think you were doing it all by yourself. And it must have felt very lonely thinking that you're the only one going through it. And that's quite a bit, to handle by yourself. And when I decided I wanted to start figuring myself out, I knew somebody who had already been in it for 5 years. So it just made it a little bit easy for me. But even then, it took a lot from me to say I'm willing to do this because I was going to start questioning my relationships. I was going to start questioning my beliefs. There was this book I started reading and I abandoned it halfway because I genuinely believed I didn't have anybody in my life who I could bank on. And this was after you had been in my life consistently for 8 years.
Wow.
And it's one of the most amazing books I've read, and I think I recommend it to absolutely everyone that I meet. Healing the Shame That Binds You. So I remember reading 50% of the book, and after 50% of the book, it's only the exercises that you need to do to start dealing with whatever issues you have. I just
Yeah.
stopped reading it. I stopped reading it, and I didn't read it for an entire year after that.
Mm.
And then I said, okay, I think I'm going to start because by then I felt a little bit more confident about, us talking and catching up and you constantly validating my feelings, which I'm so grateful for to you. Um, and that gave me the courage to read a book. I mean, can you imagine how messed up that must have been for me to, I mean, how messed up I must have been
Because
to.
we're living inside a body that is giving us signals and telling us things that we've only learned to ignore and suppress.
Yeah.
So a book comes out with statements and truths that are direct alignment for the things that we've been ignoring. It is very difficult. So that's another very good point. Buy self-help books.
Oh, books are so important as part of your growth because it doesn't have to be a book that is huge and has 1,000 pages. You start with something really small, something that you know you can read for maybe 10 minutes a day, if not more than that. Because there are some books which I read, and I recently discovered I'm not as voracious a reader as I thought I was in my head. So there are certain books that I read which take me months to complete, and I cannot read more than 2 or 3 pages in a day in that book. But that still makes a difference because it opens up your mind. It gives you perspectives that you did not have, and you will know how you connect to the book based on how much you enjoy it or how much you hate it. That will give you a little bit more idea as to where you stand and what you can do and where you can go from there. That makes a lot of difference as well.
I love
Differences.
a quote that says, it's not about how many times you've been through the book, it's how many times the book has been through you. So create a habit of reading. So number one, mindfulness meditation. There's enough resources that can be found online so that we can get used to the sensations and feelings that we have consistently ignored in our lives. And number two, have good, solid friends you can bounce ideas off. Therapy. If you have access to therapy, go to therapy. Please go to therapy. Number four, find means of creating a world for yourself. If it is your own revenue stream, good for you. If it is having your own hobbies, if it is have a world for yourself that you can retreat into safely, that's operating on your terms. And number five, books. There are there's so much of self-help books out there that a little bit of research and you can find the books that are right for you. And I'm sorry, you're laughing at so cute.
It's so cute.
Yeah. And also, there are lots of TED Talks. Dr. Phil, I love Dr. Phil. There are lots of spiritual gurus on the internet, on YouTube that you can watch, who it is just good sense to gather good sense. And gaslighting, I knew about gaslighting and had studied about it extensively, but a few days ago I got gaslit so massively, and it took a friend to identify it and let me know. So none of us can ever hope or expect to be experts in this field. But the reason we need to gaslight proof our lives is because gaslighting keeps you in a zone of survival. You're going to get hurt. You're going to have to learn to ignore that hurt, bottle it up, bottle it up, bottle it up, and then one day you're going to explode from it. Either the explosion can come in the form of your mental breakdown or you imploding and destroying your relationships around of you, and then having to survive and salvaging the pieces of either yourself or the people around you, and then rebuilding something, and then again the vicious cycle starts. So gaslighting will keep you in a very, very low vibrational state, and you're going to be forever surviving your emotions. And that's all you will do in this gorgeous, amazing, abundant life. And we wish more for you, dear viewer. We do wish more for you. We want you to create something, create art, create music, travel the world, have beautiful experiences, fall in love, save a pet, I don't know, create history, do so many wonderful things, which you cannot do if all you're doing is surviving emotions that are inherent to all of us. So thank you, Jharna, so much for joining this chat. And thank you, Deizu and Coco, for being like guests on the show.
There is one thing I'd like to add to the list of things that we can do.
Yes,
I mean,
please.
because I teach yoga, naturally I have to volunteer that information.
Yes.
So, yoga, the physical practice of yoga is meant to release blocks in the body. And the
Wow.
practice that we do, the physical practice that we do, first, it's something that you can take some time out for if you can't spend too much time, maybe, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever time you have. There are postures that are practiced specifically for certain parts of the body. So as we know, body stores emotions, right? Whether you remember it or not, your body is going to remember it from the time you were conceived until whatever your age is. So staying in postures and breathing helps you stay present, which gives space for you to be okay with where you are, and then it helps you release emotions as well. Like, for example, there are certain postures which focus on forward bending. These can be very challenging because we tend to feel like we always need to defend our back. So sometimes when people go into forward bends, they break down. And I think we knew this about someone, both of us knew from a few years ago, who would go into a particular forward bend and she would weep. So I think yoga is a great practice to include if you have the resources, if you
And I
have
think like one of the things that you can do to have your own autonomous life, develop a skill, go for a yoga class, go for a meditation class, go for a some sort of a skill, develop it. And like you said, yoga is more than just postures, more than just exercise. So I think we've run out of time, and it's been quite the extensive discussion. Thank you so much for joining me for our first telecast about such a weighty subject as gaslighting. And if you know somebody who's being consistently gaslit, say something. If you are being gaslit, talk about it, because life is too beautiful, too wondrous, too large, so much to be done than just to survive our own selves every single day and to deny our own selves. Our emotions are there to color the world, to make it more beautiful and more substantial for us. Let's not deny the very feelings that make us human. So thank you so much, Jharna, for joining me. And this is Adele signing off. Love you all, guys. Bye.